Hello, today's daily reading comes from the book of the Apocrypha. We are reading from the book of Jasher, chapter 67, verses 1 through 30, and it reads as follows. There was a man in the land of Egypt of the seed of Levi, whose name was Amram, the son of Kekos, the son of Levi, the son of Israel. And this man went and took a wife, namely Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, his father's sister, and she was 126 years old. And he came unto her, and the woman conceived and bore a daughter, and she called her name Miriam, because in those days the Egyptians had embittered the lives hmm, the lives of the children of Israel. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Aaron. For in the days of her conception, Pharaoh began to spill the blood of the male children of Israel. In those days died Zepho, the son of Eliphaz, son of Esau, king of Chittim, and Janias reigned in his stead. And the time that Zepho reigned over the children of Chittim was 50 years, and he died and was buried in the city of Nabna in the land of Chittim. And the Janians, one of the mighty men of the children of Chittim, reigned after him, and he reigned 50 years. And it was after the death of the king of Chittim that Balaam, the son of Beor, fled from the land of Chittim, and he went and came to Egypt to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Pharaoh received him with great honor, for he had heard of his wisdom. And he gave him presents and made him for a counselor, and aggrandized him. And Balaam dwelt in Egypt in honor with that the nobles, all the nobles of the king. And the nobles exalted him, because they all coveted to learn his wisdom. And in the 130th year of Israel's going down to Egypt, Pharaoh dreamed that he was sitting upon his kingly throne, and lifted up his eyes and saw an old man standing before him. And there were scales in the hands of the old man, such scales as are used by merchants. And the old man took the scales and hung them before Pharaoh. And the old man took all the elders of Egypt and all its nobles and great men, and he tied them together and put them in one scale. And he took a milk kid and put it into the other scale. And the kid preponderated over all. And Pharaoh was astonished at this dreadful vision, why the kid should preponderate over all. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And Pharaoh rose up early in the morning, and called all his servants, and related to them the dream. And the men were greatly afraid. And the king said to all his wise men, Interpret, I pray you, the dream which I dreamed, that I may know it. And Balaam the son of Beor answered the king and said unto him, This means nothing else but a great evil that will spring up against Egypt in the latter days. For a son will be born of Israel, who will destroy all Egypt and its inhabitants, and bring out the Israelites from Egypt with a mighty hand. Now therefore, O king, take counsel upon this matter, that you may destroy the hope of the children of Israel and their expectations before the evil arises against you and Egypt. And the king said unto Balaam, And what will we do unto Israel? Surely after a certain manner did we at first counsel against them, and could not prevail over them. Now therefore give you also advice against them, by which we may prevail over them. And Balaam answered the king, saying, Send now and call your two counselors, and we will see what their advice is upon the matter, and afterward your servant will speak. And the king sent and called his two counselors, Reuel and Midianite, and Job and Uzite, and they came and sat before the king. And the king said to them, Behold, you have both heard the dream which I have dreamed, and the interpretation. Therefore give counsel, and know and see what is to be done to the children of Israel, whereby we may prevail over them, before their evil will spring up against us. And Reuel the Midianite answered the king and said, may the king live forever. If it seems good to the king, let him desist from the Hebrews and leave them, and let him not stretch out his hand against them. For these are they whom the Lord chose in days of old, and took as a lot of his inheritance from among all the nations of the earth, and the kings of the earth. And who is there that stretched his hand against them was impunity, of whom their God was not avenged. Surely you know that when Abraham went down to Egypt, Pharaoh, the former king of Egypt, saw Sarah his wife, and took her for a wife, because Abraham said, She is my sister. For he was afraid lest the men of Egypt should slay him on account of his wife. And when the king of Egypt had taken Sarah, and God smote him and his household with heavy plagues until he restored unto Abraham his wife Sarah, then was he healed. Amen.